The relentless desert beat down on me as I trudged across the compound, my boots kicking up small clouds of dust with each step. Our research facility, if you could call it that, was little more than a collection of prefabricated buildings and repurposed shipping containers arranged in a rough circle around a central courtyard. A chain-link fence topped with razor wire marked the perimeter, stretching off into the empty wasteland in all directions. I had been here for 3 months now, part of a small team tasked with a classified project that even we didn't fully understand. All I knew was that it involved advanced weapons research, something to do with manipulating quantum fields to create localized disruptions in space-time. At least, that's what Dr. Eliza Cowrie, our team leader, had told us during the initial briefing. As I entered the main lab, a blast of cool air washed over me. I nodded to James, our physicist, who was hunched over a bank of monitors. "Any progress?" I asked, peering at the incomprehensible strings of data scrolling across the screens. James grunted, not looking up. "Maybe there's something off about these readings? It's like the quantum field is already disturbed here, even before we fire up the generator." I frowned. "How is that possible?" He shrugged, finally turning to face me. "No idea, but it's not the only weird thing I've noticed lately. Have you been having trouble sleeping?" I hesitated before answering. The truth was, I'd been having vivid, unsettling dreams ever since we had arrived. Visions of vast, impossible geometries and whispered voices in languages that had never existed. But I chalked it up to stress and the isolation of our posting. "A little," I admitted. "Why do you ask?" James leaned in close, his voice dropping to a whisper. "I've been hearing things at night. Voices coming from outside. But when I look, there's nothing there." A chill ran down my spine, despite the oppressive heat. Before I could respond, the lab door burst open, and Sarah, our archaeologist, rushed in, her eyes wild with excitement. "You need to see this," she gasped, gesturing for us to follow. "We found something." We hurried after her, out into the blinding sunlight and across the compound to the dig site. For weeks, Sarah had been excavating a series of ancient ruins we'd discovered near the facility. The brass had been furious when we'd first reported the find, insisting that we focus on our primary objective. But Sarah had argued that understanding the site's history might provide valuable context for our research. As we approached the dig, I saw that a section of the sand had been cleared away, revealing a dark opening leading underground. Sarah led us to the edge, shining her flashlight into the depths. "It's some kind of chamber," she explained, her voice trembling with a mix of excitement and fear. "The walls are covered in writings and symbols unlike anything I've ever seen, and there's something else down there." We descended into the darkness, the temperature dropping noticeably as we went deeper. The beam of Sarah's flashlight danced across the walls, illuminating intricate carvings that seemed to writhe and shift in the flickering light. I felt a growing sense of unease as we were trespassing in a place that was never meant to be discovered. At the bottom of the shaft, the passage opened into a vast, circular chamber. Sarah's light swept across the room, revealing more of the strange symbols covering every surface. But it was what stood in the center that made my blood run cold. A massive stone slab dominated the chamber, and atop it lay a thing. It was vaguely humanoid in shape, but far larger than any person. Its skin was a sickly translucent gray, stretched taut over an impossibly angular skeleton. Where its face should have been, there was only a smooth, featureless expanse of flesh. "What the hell is that?" James whispered, his voice cracking. Sarah shook her head, her pale face in the dim light. "I don't know, but look at this." She directed her flashlight to the base of the slab, where a series of symbols were carved into the stone. Sarah traced them with her finger, her brow furrowed in concentration. "I can't read most of it," she said, "but this part here, it's a name, I think." Xerxes. As soon as she spoke the word, a low vibration filled the chamber. The air grew thick and heavy, pressing down on us like a physical weight. And then, impossibly, the thing on the slab began to move. We scrambled backward, watching in horror as the creature slowly sat up, its movements jerky and unnatural. Its head swiveled towards us, and though it had no eyes, I felt the weight of its gaze boring into my soul. And then, it spoke. The words were unlike anything I'd ever heard. A cacophony of clicks and whistles that seemed to bypass my ears and resonate directly in my mind. Images flashed before my eyes. Vast cities of impossible architecture, beings of pure energy, the birth and death of entire universes. I don't know how long we stood there, transfixed by the alien presence. It might have been minutes or hours. But suddenly, the spell was broken by the sound of gunfire from above. We ran from the exit, our minds reeling from what we'd witnessed. As we emerged into the sunlight, we found the compound in chaos. Soldiers were running in all directions, their weapons drawn. In the distance, I could see strange, shimmering distortions in the air, like heat gaze given form. Major Reeves sprinted towards us, his face a mask of barely controlled panic. "What the hell did you do down there?" he shouted. "The whole area's going crazy. We're picking up energy readings off the charts. And things are coming through." Before we could respond, one of the distortions coalesced into a solid form. It was like nothing I'd ever seen. A writhing mass of tentacles and eyes, defying all laws of physics and biology. A soldier opened fire, but the bullets passed harmlessly through the creature. With lightning speed, it lashed out, wrapping a tentacle around the man and dragging him screaming into the anomaly. "Fall back," Reeves ordered, herding us towards the main building. "We need to contain this." The next few hours were a blur of terror and confusion. More anomalies appeared throughout the compound, disgorging nightmarish entities that our weapons seemed powerless against. We barricaded ourselves in the main lab, watching helplessly as our world descended into chaos. Dr. Cowrie worked frantically at her computer, trying to make sense of the readings pouring in from our sensors. "It's as if the barrier between dimensions is breaking down," she muttered. "Whatever you found down there, it's acting as a catalyst, amplifying the quantum disturbances we've been studying." James paced back and forth, running his hands through his hair. "This is insane. We're dealing with forces beyond our comprehension. We need to shut it down, seal off the chamber somehow." But even as he spoke, I knew it was too late. The whispers I'd heard in my dreams were growing louder, more insistent. I could feel the presence of Xerxes pressing against the edges of my consciousness, seeking entry. Days passed in a nightmarish haze. The anomalies continued to spread, consuming more of the surrounding desert. We lost contact with the outside world, our communications equipment rendered useless by the quantum interference. Food and water began to run low, and the constant stress took its toll on our sanity. Sarah spent hours poring over her notes, trying to decipher the symbols we'd seen in the underground chamber. "I think I understand now," she said one evening, her voice hollow with dread. "Xerxes isn't just a name. It's a title, the opener of ways, a being from beyond our reality, imprisoned here eons ago by some long-forgotten civilization. And we let it out," I finished, the weight of our actions crushing down on me. As our situation grew more desperate, tensions within the group began to fray. Major Reeves argued for a last-ditch attempt to reach the perimeter and escape into the desert. Dr. Cowrie insisted that our only hope was to continue studying the phenomenon, to find some way to reverse the process. But it was James who finally snapped. I found him one morning in the lab, standing before a hastily constructed device cobbled together from our research equipment. "I can fix this," he said, his eyes wild and unfocused. "I can open a passage to somewhere else, somewhere safe." Before I could stop him, he activated the machine. The air in the lab rippled and tore, revealing a swirling vortex of impossible colors. James let out a triumphant laugh and stepped towards the portal. "No!" I shouted, lunging for him. But I was too late. James vanished into the vortex, which collapsed behind him with a thunderous boom. In the aftermath of James's disappearance, a strange calm settled over the compound. The anomalies seemed to stabilize, no longer spreading, but not receding either. We found ourselves in a pocket of relative normality, surrounded by a sea of cosmic horrors. It was during this lull that I began to hear Xerxes more clearly. Its alien thoughts seeped into my mind, showing me glimpses of realities beyond imagining. I learned that our universe was but one of infinite layers, separated by barriers that were never meant to be breached. Xerxes and its kind were the guardians of these cosmic boundaries, tasked with maintaining the delicate balance between worlds. But Xerxes had grown curious about the realm it protected, and in its arrogance, it had allowed itself to be trapped by the ancient inhabitants of Earth. Our experiments had weakened its prison just enough for it to reach out and touch our minds, guiding us to its resting place. Now, freed from its long imprisonment, Xerxes sought to return to its duties. But the damage had been done. The barriers between worlds had been weakened, and the things that should never have existed in our reality were slipping through the cracks. As the days wore on, I found myself spending more and more time in the underground chamber, drawn by an irresistible pull. The others thought I was losing my mind, but I knew I was on the verge of understanding something vast and terrible. It was there, in the presence of the slumbering Xerxes, that I finally grasped the full scope of our situation. We hadn't just unleashed a single entity. We had set in motion a chain reaction that threatened the very fabric of reality. But with this understanding came a glimmer of hope. Xerxes, in its alien way, was trying to repair the damage it had caused. The anomalies weren't just random tears in space-time. They were attempts to reweave the cosmic tapestry, to seal the breaches between worlds. Armed with this knowledge, I returned to the others and shared what I had learned. Dr. Cowrie was skeptical at first, but as we compared my visions with the data from our instruments, a plan began to take shape. We couldn't undo what had been done, but we could help Xerxes complete its work. Using our quantum field generator, we could amplify its efforts, providing the energy it needed to restore the barriers between dimensions. The process was agonizing. As we activated the generator, waves of mind-bending energy washed over us. Reality itself seemed to flex and distort, and I felt my sanity slipping away in the face of cosmic truths no human was meant to comprehend. But slowly, painfully, it worked. The anomalies began to shrink, the nightmarish entities retreating to their own realms. In the underground chamber, Xerxes' form grew more insubstantial, fading like mist in the morning sun, just before it vanished completely. Xerxes turned its featureless face towards me one last time. A final burst of alien thought flooded my mind. A warning, a promise, and a burden. Though the immediate crisis had been averted, the barriers between worlds would never be as strong as they once were. And now, with the knowledge Xerxes had imparted, it fell to us to stand guard against future incursions. As the last traces of Xerxes faded away, the oppressive atmosphere that had hung over the compound for so long lifted. We emerged from the lab, blinking in the harsh desert sunlight, to find the world seemingly returned to normal. But I knew the truth. The horrors we had witnessed, the cosmic secrets we had glimpsed, they had left an indelible mark on our souls. We were changed, burdened with a terrible responsibility. In the days that followed, we made contact with the outside world and began the long process of explaining what had happened. Most of our story was buried under layers of classification and denial. To the rest of the world, it was just another failed Black Ops project, best forgotten. But for those of us who lived through it, who stood at the threshold between worlds and gazed into the abyss of infinity, There would never be any going back to normal. We carry the whispers of Xerxes with us, always, a constant reminder of the fragile nature of reality and the price of human hubris. And in my darkest moments, when the weight of what we've done threatens to crush me, I find myself listening for those alien whispers once more. For I know that one day the barriers will weaken again. And when that day comes, we must be ready to face the horrors that lurk beyond the veil of our fragile reality. For Xerxes may be gone, but the cracks remain, and through those cracks, unimaginable terrors wait to slip into our world once more. Months have passed since that fateful day in the desert, but the memories remained as vivid as ever. Our small team has been reassigned, scattered across various top-secret facilities around the globe. We're kept under constant surveillance, our communications monitored, our movements restricted. The powers that be are determined to keep what happened buried, but they also know they need us, our knowledge, our experience, in case the unthinkable happens again. I've been stationed at a nondescript research facility in northern Alaska, ostensibly working on advanced theoretical physics. In reality, I spend my days poring over data, searching for the slightest anomaly that might indicate another incursion. The isolation is mind-numbing, but it's a small price to pay for the safety of our world. Dr. Cowrie and I maintain sporadic contact through heavily encrypted channels. She's in Geneva now, quietly influencing global science policy to steer research away from the dangerous areas we stumbled into. Sarah has disappeared entirely. Rumor has it, she's gone deep undercover, searching for other sites like the one we found, determined to prevent anyone else from making our mistakes. But it's the fate of James that haunts me the most. His reckless leap into that swirling vortex plays on repeat in my nightmares. Is he dead? Trapped in some alien dimension? Or worse, has he become something other than human, changed by exposure to realities our minds were never meant to comprehend? I got my answer 3 nights ago. I was working in the lab, analyzing a particularly puzzling set of readings from our quantum sensors when the air in front of me began to ripple and distort. My heart leapt into my throat as I recognized the telltale signs of a forming anomaly. I reached for the alarm, ready to initiate our containment protocols, when a figure stepped through the shimmering tear in reality. It was James, or what was left of him. His body was gaunt, almost skeletal, his skin pale and translucent. But it was his eyes that truly betrayed how much he had changed. They swirled with impossible colors, windows to vistas of madness that no human should ever witness. "Hello, old friend," he said, his voice a discordant mixture of familiar tones and alien harmonics. "I have come to warn you." I stood frozen, caught between relief at seeing him alive and terror at what he had become. "James," I whispered, "what happened to you?" He smiled, a rictus grin that stretched too wide across his face. "I've seen wonders and horrors beyond imagining. I've walked between worlds, surfed the cosmic winds, and danced on the edge of oblivion. But that's not important right now. Listen carefully. They're coming." "Who's coming?" I asked, dreading the answer. "The ones who imprisoned Xerxes," James replied, his eyes darting nervously around the room. "They have sensed the weakening of the barriers, and they're not happy. They're coming to check on their handiwork, to ensure that the cosmic order remains intact. And if they find our world wanting..." He trailed off, shuddering. I felt the blood drain from my face. "What can we do?" James reached out and gripped my arm, his touch sending jolts of otherworldly energy through my body. "Prepare. Gather the others. The knowledge Xerxes imparted to you is the key. You must use it to strengthen the barriers, to hide our world from their searching gaze." Before I could ask anything more, the air behind James began to ripple again. He glanced over his shoulder, fear etched across his transformed features. "I've stayed too long. he hissed. "They'll track me here. Remember what I said. Prepare, hide, survive. The fate of our entire reality depends on it." With that, he stepped back into the swirling vortex, which collapsed behind him with a sound like reality itself tearing apart. I stood there for a moment, my mind reeling from what I'd just witnessed. Then, with shaking hands, I reached for my secure communication device. It was time to get the team back together. We had work to do, and the clock was ticking. As I waited for the encrypted line to connect, I gazed out the window at the stark Alaskan landscape. The aurora borealis danced across the night sky, its eerie beauty taking on a sinister aspect in light of what I now knew. How long did we have before these cosmic judges arrived? What would they do if they found our world corrupted by the knowledge and power we'd unwittingly unleashed? One thing was certain: we couldn't face this threat alone. We needed allies, resources, and above all, time. The whispers of Xerxes echoed in my mind, reminding me of the terrible responsibility we bore. We had cracked open the door to realms beyond human comprehension, and now we had to deal with the consequences. As Dr. Cowrey's voice crackled over the secure line, I took a deep breath. "Eliza," I said, "it's happening again. And this time, the stakes are even higher." The aurora flared brightly, its colors shifting to hues that shouldn't exist in nature. For a moment, I thought I saw vast, shadowy shapes moving within the lights, peering down at our fragile world with ancient, alien curiosity. Our vigil had only just begun, and the true test of humanity's place in the cosmic order was yet to come. With Xerxes gone and James transformed, it fell to us, the last guardians of a secret that could unmake reality itself, to stand against the coming storm. As I filled Dr. Cowrey in on James's warning, I couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. Whatever horrors we had faced in that desert compound, whatever mind-bending revelations Xerxes had imparted to us, they were merely the prelude to a cosmic drama in which our entire world was but a small stage. The war for reality itself was about to begin, and we were the only ones who even knew it was coming. The next few months were a whirlwind of frantic activity. Dr. Cowrey and I worked tirelessly to reassemble our team, calling in favors and leveraging every connection we had. Sarah emerged from the shadows, bringing with her a wealth of knowledge gleaned from ancient sites around the world. Even Major Reeves, who had initially wanted nothing more to do with our cosmic nonsense, answered the call. We established a secret base of operations in an abandoned military bunker deep in the Rockies. Here, surrounded by cutting-edge technology and arcane artifacts, we raced against time to prepare for the coming inspection. Our plan was audacious, perhaps even foolhardy. Using the quantum field manipulation techniques we had originally developed for weapons research, combined with the esoteric knowledge imparted by Xerxes and discovered by Sarah, we aimed to create a sort of cosmic camouflage for our entire planet. The work was grueling and dangerous. More than once, our experiments nearly tore open new rifts in reality. Sarah suffered crippling migraines as she attempted to decipher and apply the ancient wisdom she had uncovered. Dr. Cowrey pushed herself to the brink of exhaustion, her brilliant mind our best hope for synthesizing the desperate streams of science and mysticism. As for me, I found myself slipping into trances, my consciousness expanding beyond the confines of our reality as I grappled with concepts no human mind was meant to contain. In these moments of cosmic awareness, I caught glimpses of our unseen judges, vast, incomprehensible entities that defied description, their very existence an affront to the laws of our universe. Just as we were on the verge of a breakthrough, disaster struck. Our activities had not gone unnoticed by earthly authorities. A joint task force of military and intelligence operatives surrounded our base, demanding our immediate surrender. It was in this moment of crisis that James reappeared. He materialized in the center of our lab, his form even more altered than before. "They're here," he intoned, his voice resonating with otherworldly harmonics. "The inspection has begun." As if in response to his words, the very fabric of reality around us began to warp and twist. Outside, we could hear the shouts of confusion from the soldiers as their weapons and equipment inexplicably failed. "It's now or never," Dr. Cowrie said, her face set with determination. "We have to activate the camouflage." With no other choice, we initiated our untested protocol. The quantum field generators hummed to life, their energy interacting with the artifacts Sarah had assembled in complex patterns. I felt my consciousness expand once more, connecting with the others in a moment of perfect synchronicity. Together, our minds reached out, guided by the whispers of Xerxes and the cosmic awareness James had gained in his trans-dimensional wanderings. We wove a veil of quantum uncertainty around our world, blurring its edges in the perceptions of those vast, judging entities. The process was agonizing. I felt as if my very being was being stretched across the cosmos, my sense of self threatening to dissolve into the infinite. But through it all, I held onto a singular thought: the need to protect our world, our humanity in all its beautiful imperfection. How long we remained in that state of expanded consciousness, I cannot say. It could have been moments or millennia. But gradually, I became aware of a shift in the cosmic tide. The presence of the inspectors, which had loomed so large in my perception, began to recede. Slowly, painfully, I returned to my physical form. The others were stirring as well, their faces etched with the same mix of exhaustion and wonder that I felt. James stood in the center of the room, a smile of genuine joy transforming his alien features. "It worked," he said, his voice sounding more human than it had in months. "They passed us by. Earth remains hidden, a secret corner of the multiverse." As the implications of his words sank in, a wave of relief washed over us. We had done it. Against all odds, we had shielded our world from cosmic judgment. In the days that followed, we worked to stabilize the quantum camouflage, anchoring it to key points around the globe. The authorities who had sought to shut us down now turned to us for answers, forced to acknowledge the reality of what we had been fighting. With the immediate threat averted, we turned our attention to healing the damage done to the barriers between worlds. It would be the work of a lifetime, but for the first time since that fateful day in the desert, I felt hope for the future. James, no longer pulled between realities, began the slow process of reintegrating into human society. His unique perspective and abilities would prove invaluable in our ongoing efforts to protect and repair the cosmic order. Sarah threw herself into establishing a new organization dedicated to seeking out and securing ancient knowledge, ensuring that the mistakes of the past would not be repeated. Dr. Cowrie, her brilliance finally recognized, took a pivotal role in reshaping global scientific policy, steering humanity towards a deeper understanding of our place in the universe without risking another catastrophe. As for me, I found a new purpose. The whispers of Xerxes, once a burden, became a guide. I took on the role of intermediary between our world and the wider cosmos, using my expanded awareness to navigate the treacherous waters of interdimensional diplomacy. Years have passed since that day when we hid our world from cosmic judgment. The work continues, and there are still moments of danger and uncertainty. But we face them together, armed with knowledge, experience, and a deep appreciation for the preciousness of our reality. Sometimes, in quiet moments, I gaze up at the stars and reflect on our journey. We ventured into the darkness between worlds and emerged not alive, but wiser. We faced cosmic horrors and used that knowledge to become guardians of our own small corner of the infinite. The whispers of Xerxes remain, a constant reminder of the vastness that lies beyond. But now, instead of terror, they fill me with a sense of wonder and purpose. We are no longer helpless in the face of cosmic forces. we are active participants in the grand dance of realities, humble but essential custodians of our world. And in that role, in the bonds forged through unimaginable trials, in the quiet moments of beauty that remind us what we fought to preserve, we have found something precious. Hope. Hope for our future. Hope for our world. And hope for our place in the grand tapestry of existence. The universe may be vast and full of wonders and terrors beyond imagining. But this is our home. And we will protect it. Come what may.